In this video, what we're going to be doing is creating our full auto class for our weapons. So now that our stern conveyor is, good to go and set up, I want to go ahead and begin working on that. So this video is going to be strictly just doing the basics of setting it up and getting it kind of ready and good to go. And the next video, we're going to be making it more so just focusing on the functionality aspect. And there's something slightly different that I want to do with this as well, and I'll explain that as the class is getting created. So we're going to go to C++ classes, project name, public, Nazi zombie, usables. We're going to find our weapon base. We're going to right click, create a C++ class derived from it. We're going to change the path to /weapons to correspond to this folder here. And as you can see, inside of it, we have a class called weapon semi. We're going to create this one, call it weapon full, and hit create class. Now, what I want to do is I want to make the class have a simple blueprint exposed variable that is just a simple boolean, so it can be toggleable. And what that's going to control is whether or not the gun is going to be select fire. So for example, the Sturmgewehr, the STG that we imported, that's select fire. So we want to choose between semi and full auto, just so we have that ability. So whenever I press something like B on my keyboard, I want to switch between the two. And then if we ever make something like, for example, importing a grease gun, well, that's full auto only. So we would just leave that, or we would, based on whether or not the value that we set for that little exposed boolean, whether that's true or false, that's going to dictate whether or not we can choose between select or full auto and semi. So we're just going to be stuck in full auto only. So that's what this class is going to be kind of based around. So it's going to be strictly full auto at first, but we're going to then have the ability to switch between semi and full. So let's go to our new class. So we have weaponfull.cpp and our .h. So I need to correct this path here. So it's going to be, well, actually, let's just look at our weapon semi. Just copy the entire thing before weapon semi and paste it right on it. So then we have weapons/weapon full.h. And we're included. So let's see, what other things did we include? So we include drawing debug helpers, world, and skeletal mesh. Let's see, what am I using the skeletal mesh for? I guess for playing the animations. That's my assumption anyways. So I'm just going to go ahead and include these as well. Actually, I'm going to include everything into our weapon full, like so, and we can begin creating our constructor. So public, a weapon full. I'm going to make a protected section. Create the constructor. Whoops. And let's see here. Here I just altered the values for the weapon semi because that's what's used for the pistol and the M1 carbine. Here we're most likely going to be working with firearms that have, 30 rounds in the magazine. So I'm just going to set these in our weapon full as just something different. So I'm going to do 30 for the magazine max ammo, and I guess 250 for the weapon max ammo. Actually, let's see. Can 250 be divided by 30? Nope. Let's just do 30 times 2, do 240. All right, so we have our constructor, and I believe we're setting the name by default in our weapon base, which I'm just going to set default name to be in our weapon base. It's not really a big deal. And I'm going to move our weapon full over to the right, just to kind of keep the order nice and neat. So now let's look at our weapon semi and the things that we had to override. So what I wanted to do previously is I wanted to take our weapon semi code and put it into our weapon base, and that will probably end up being done later. So that way everything related to semi-auto fire is inside of our weapon base. And then if we want to switch to full auto and that kind of thing, we can easily do that just by overriding those. It'll pretty much almost make our weapon semi class not really be too much of required, so to speak. Anyways, things that we need to override. We're going to need our server fire and multi-fire and our fire and reload functions. Probably not our reload. Well, actually, let's see. Let's look in weapon base, look at our reload. Actually, weapon semi, let's look at our reload. We're just calling super reload. So there's no reason to actually override this. So we're gonna take everything except for the reload, and we're gonna eventually remove it, our reload function, out of our weapon semi. We're gonna take server fire, multi-fire, and our fire functions and move them over to weapon full, like so. And do we have anything in begin play? I don't think so. Yes, we do. So in begin play, we're gonna override that as well. Like so, in our weapon full. And now we can begin creating definitions. So I'm going to be lazy here. I'm going to go to weapon semi. I'm going to actually just full on copy begin play and change a weapon semi to a weapon full. And that's already good to go. And then we can move on to the rest. So we're going to create the definitions for server fire. Same thing for multi-fire and fire, like so. And we're pretty much set up for the base. Now we want to create a Boolean. I want to actually replicate this. So let's make this protected. It's going to do uProperty, replicate it. We're going to do let's see, we might actually make this an OnRep. So that way, when the weapon is firing, it is going to keep firing in a loop. So it'll pretty much just trigger an event on all clients that'll fire. So that way we're not sending RPCs every time the weapon fires. Instead, we're only going to be sending one in full auto when the weapon starts to fire and when the weapon stops. So whether or not the weapon runs dry or just the player lets off the trigger. So we're probably going to end up doing that. So, but for now, I'm just going to do bool b is firing. And we need to set up some checks here because we want it to be different between semi and full auto. So semi-auto, we don't really want to deal with this Boolean. We don't want that on rep or anything to fire, but full auto we do. So let's go ahead and replicate that. So I think I'm replicating something in our weapon CPP. Yep, our weapon base I mean. So I'm going to copy our entire get lifetime replicated props and move it over to weapon full. Paste it under begin play and change a weapon base to a weapon full and a weapon full and remove the second one. So we only have one. And what we're going to replicate is this B is firing variable, like so. Now we need to include, yes, included. We need to include net / Unreal Network. Golly, that was getting annoying. So that's going to be what controls it. So first thing we're going to be doing is setting up our, we want it to toggle when we fire. So we're going to set up our fire function to kind of loop back, if that makes sense. So we almost need to, we're going to be keeping the multi-fire. Let's see. So we're going to set up the full auto strictly right now. Well, not right now, but, and then after that, we're going to move it to the semi. So what I'm thinking here is once the full auto is set up for this class, we're going to be merging or moving the weapon semi code into weapon base. So that way our weapon base code is essentially our full auto stuff. So we can check. So if we're set up to fire in semi-auto, all we do is we call the functions in our weapon base using super. So if we look in our weapon semi like we did for our reload, the only thing we called was the super. So what it ended up doing was calling our reload function in our weapon base.cpp right here, which handled everything for us. So this is handling our reloads and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to be doing the exact same thing with firing. So that'll drastically simplify everything. So I think that's the route we're going to go. So in order to do that, we're going to remove this multi-fire implementation. We don't need it to be multicasted. And I think I'm going to change this to the setup full auto. So we also kind of need to think here. We only want the B is firing to really run on all other clients for strictly effects. Again, this is going to be replicated using, so I'm going to make a comment on other clients. So that's the only thing this is going to be controlling. On the server side of things, we're going to be doing a little bit differently. So what I want to do is I don't necessarily want this to run. Well, let's see. What I want to do is I want to still pass in the hit results from the client to the server for each shot. So that way we still have the accuracy, the responsiveness, and all that of the client shooting even full auto. But at the same time, we don't want that, data to be broadcasted every single time to the clients. So we're going to be doing the full auto shooting as well on the client too, that is shooting. But every time a shot fires, we're going to be passing in the hit through the line trace data to the server, just kind of simultaneously, if that makes sense. So we need to think about how we're going to set this up. So what I want to do is when we fire, I want to already check. So if B is firing, well, if we are not firing, I want to set it. Let's do a check here, and is in full auto. What we're going to do is we are going to set B is firing equals true. And we're going to tell the server this too. So we're going to create another server RPC. So U function, B server, reliable with validation, do void server underscore start full auto fire. It's going to take in a parameter, so bool is firing. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, do a boolean, and do another void. So the boolean is going to be underscore validate, and the other void is going to be the implementation. I'm pretty sure I spelled that right. We're going to create the implementation, or the definition of the validate, as well as the implementation. So for our validate, we're just simply going to return true. Then what we're going to do is if, for starters, we want to set the boolean. So yeah, I know. So we're going to set it so B is firing equals is firing, and type. We're going to do if B is firing, else. So this is going to be controlling our start and stop. So since it's going to be an OnRep, the server is now going to toggle this, which is going to kind of trigger the OnRep for it. Okay, I'm starting to think of how I want to do this. So we're not going to concern ourselves too much with the server. I'm actually going to remove this line of code here and think for a second. So I want to go ahead and move this. Well, not move it, but I want to create the OnRep. So we're going to do a U function. It's going to be void OnRep underscore start full auto fire. I'll just keep it as that and create the definition. So I'm going to move this down because it's above our begin play. I want to put it right below our implementation of our start full auto fire. What I'm going to do here is we're going to be pretty much starting and stopping a timer. So I'm going to have another function, void play weapon effects. Generate the implementation. And we're going to have a timer. So F timer handle, call this one weapon fire handle. Copy it. Go to begin play. Oops. We want to go ahead and include something. So we're going to include timer manager.h. We're going to do get world, get timer manager dot set timer. We're going to do our weapon fire handle. We're going to refer to this class, and we're going to do a weapon full. How was it? Play weapon effects. And then, the delay. So we're going to do just, for now, just 0.5 seconds and pass in true. So it is looping. And then right after that, we want to do the exact same thing, but we want to pause it. So get timer manager dot pause timer. Whoops. Weapon fire handle. Like so. So what this OnRep is going to pretty much be doing is turning on and off the, pausing and unpausing the timer, so to speak. Actually, better yet, it might actually be a little bit better if we just start the timer, and whenever we want to stop it, we just kill it. So that might be the route we take. So I'm going to take this set timer, remove all that stuff out of begin play, go to OnRep, paste it in, and it's going to be playing our weapon effects. So we're going to do an if check. So if B is firing, we start the timer. Otherwise, paste it in there again. Instead, we're going to do dot clear timer and then the timer handle. So that's going to be the only parameter that it takes in as our weapon fire handle. And I will print out a log in here. So UV log temp, warning, text, OnRep, playing weapon effects for full auto class. I'm going to be stepping through this here in a bit too. So we're also going to have to do the same kind of thing for the client, but instead we're just going to have a dedicated function for it. But I mostly want to get the OnRep kind of thing triggered and going first, which I'm trying to think it should pretty much already be. So B is firing goes true. Now we want to call the server underscore start full auto fire and pass in B is firing. So if we are not firing and we are in full auto, we want to start our full auto fire. Otherwise, well, we don't really need an else at the moment since we're just focusing on this. So we start the full auto fire. Why are you all the way down here? I want you under begin play. So we start the full auto fire. We toggle Boolean. So since we're on the server, we need to call the OnRep. So OnRep underscore start full auto fire. This one's just so the server plays it too. And we do a check. So if we are firing, we set the timer in order to play the weapon effects. If we stop firing, meaning B is firing is false, then we want to clear it, like so. So we need a way to dictate whether or not we're going to stop firing. So in our weapon base, I'm just going to go ahead and create a function here, do virtual void stop firing. It's going to take in no parameters as it's not really needed. And what I'm going to do here is just create the implementation. It has no real use in our weapon base, but it does in our weapon full. So we're going to go to our below our fire function weapon full.h, do virtual void stop firing and override it. Then create the implementation. And what we're going to do is essentially, why did it create the implementation in there? All right, screw you too. I don't want it to be inline. So we're going to go below our fire function and paste it in. And we're pretty much going to be doing this. So we're going to do for stop firing, B is firing equals false. And we're going to do server underscore start full auto fire. B is firing. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick compile. So that way, whenever we let go of the left mouse button, what's going to happen is it's going to call our stop firing function, and based off of which weapon is in our hand, like the STG, which is a full auto gun, it's going to call our stop firing, so it's going to set B as firing to false, and pass in false to our start full auto fire, which is then going to set this to false, call our onRep, and since it's replicated, it's going to be false. So it's going to be if B is firing, that's going to return false, so it's going to run to the else. It's going to stop the timer, so it should no longer be firing full auto. Now I need to just make this return true. I can't remember what I had it as a boolean for. So what we need to do is we need to set up the stop firing to work in our character class. So Nazi zombie character.cpp. Scroll down to our inputs. Nope, character base.cpp, sorry. Scroll down to the inputs. We have our fire. We're going to create another one for on stop fire. So let's go to character base.h. Go to wherever our fire function is. So on fire, do virtual void on stop fire and create the implementation. And we're going to set fire. I'm going to paste it in. We're going to change it from IE pressed to IE underscore released. Change it to on stop fire, like so. And then obviously later on, we're going to have some checks in here. So every time we release the mouse button, we don't necessarily need to make the server call. So we're going to be doing a check like, if we have ammo in the magazine, if we're not reloading, that kind of stuff, then we're not going to bother making this call to the server, because we only really need to make it when we let go of the fire when we still have ammo in the magazine. So we have that now in our character base.cpp. Now let's override this on stop fire in our Nazi zombie character. So we have virtual void on stop fire, virtual void on stop fire, override, create the implementation. And what we're going to do is do kind of what we do here. So if current weapon, we're going to do current weapon, stop firing, like so. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick compile. We should be good to go. So I'm going to print out some logs here. So uv log temp, warning, text, stop firing, just so it prints out. And we're just going to give this a rough kind of check. So I'm just going to wait for it to stop compiling, and then I'll compile again to where hopefully our play weapon effects, our log here will get continually kind of called, just in a loop. And it should be called for other clients. And we can also do a check in here to see if we are the server or not as well. So that way we don't have to we don't have to make the server RPC call. Okay, I'm going to relaunch the engine. Wait for it to quit hanging up. There we go. And we're going to go to our weapon pool, create a blueprint class based on it. I'm going to call this one BP underscore weapon pool test. I'm just going to throw it into weapons. All right, going to save all. Let's set the mesh to the STG. Just do basic things like the fire animation. Search for STG. We have our, I don't want the arms. STG fire. Don't have a fire empty. Then we have our reload. Then we have our reload empty. FPS arms, we're going to use the STG. Don't think I have anything for the third person, which I do not, so we're fine. So, just going to save all, go to our character class, and set to use it. So BP weapon full test. Compile save, go to our output log, and see what happens. So we're going to do 2 clients, new pie window. I'm totally using the wrong animations here. So here when client fires, left click, stop firing, I hold it, OnRep, I'm just holding my left mouse button, so it's spamming the OnRep, and I let go. It stops. Awesome. But it should still be the same. Yep. And it works there too. Now what the heck kind of animations am I using right now? How do I set you? Oh, right. Weapon ID, STG44. Compile, save. That's why. There we go. So we're pretty much good to go. So that's where I'm going to stop the video here. And then because we're going on a little bit long. Oh crap, we're at 26 minutes. What the heck happened? So we have the kind of basics for our full auto class set up. And in the next video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be kind of continuing on with it. So obviously we need to do things like playing the weapon effects and that sort of thing. Well, actually, you know what, screw it. Let's just set the weapon effects in here real quick. So we go to weapon semi, go to our multicast fire right here, and we're just going to copy this entire thing. Go back to our weapon full. Oops, go to our OnRep, or the play weapon effects function, and paste it in. And so pretty much everything should already be set up. We should be playing our arm fire animation, well, for third person, which is playing the sounds and stuff like that for the other clients to hear, and that sort of thing. Because we're going to be playing the animation like we're going to be playing our fire animation every time this is called. You want to compile? Save all and close. There we go. And now we should pretty much be playing the fire animation. And that will also be playing our sounds, because if you recall, the sounds cues that we created are linked inside of our animation. So our shooting client will not be able to hear it because we do not have anything set up in our fire, but everyone who's playing the OnRep will have it. And since we're replicated but skipping, oh, I just realized I have this set to replicating with the owner only. The condition needs to be skip owner. But regardless, we'll get the same result. But on the other client. Okay. Let me relaunch one more time. I hate this hang up that it does. There we go. 2 clients. So shoot on the client. I'm holding it and tab into the server. You can hear the side went off. Shoot on the server. Tab to the client. We don't hear anything, so that's probably going to be related to the server not playing it. So I'm going to have 2 clients. Just move the server out of the way. So we have client 2 and client 3 that we tab between. So shoot, tab to client 2, not hearing anything. And same thing with that. So we're hearing it on the server, but not on the client. So that's something we're going to have to fix. So I will see you in the next one when we fix it.